Alright friends, while Bannerlord is back and better than ever, it's also harder to navigate the early stages of a campaign. The map is just crawling with hostiles, enemy archers are even more deadly than before, and many changes also make it more challenging to make money.
Stop that. Who are you?
In this short series, I'll show you how an experienced Bannerlord player navigates the early game, collects a bunch of dinars, and help you dominate. Alright, welcome back again, friends, to another episode of Tactical Enlightenment. Our YouTube channel is dedicated to all things Bannerlord related, and welcome back again to our campaign here covering the very early stage of Bannerlord with 1.3. We continue to test this out. In particular, we are trying to demonstrate how to acquire cash in the early stages now after this update. It's significantly more difficult, and there are many ways to do it. I do want to talk about that during today's episode, but we're going to continue to do what I do best, right? Core competencies, that's the word that Mark Cuban uses for this. It's basically finding out what you're really good at and then taking advantage of that. In this case, of course, I'm good at tactics. I'm good at character management and developing savage warriors and captains and things like that. So we are going to dominate battlefields. We are going to operate the campaign from a tactical perspective. We're going to try to get into battles that favor us here. We're leveling up our character here. This is Rage. It's not Raj. This guy's name is Rage, and he's raging so far across Calradia. Working his way towards Clan Tier 3. Hopefully we get to Clan Tier 3 during this episode. By then we'll have an army large enough to really challenge almost any significant sized force. Not an army of 700, but probably multiple armies for sure.
Halt!
Now, it's interesting, these single armies are still chasing us down, and that is one of the advantages of good tactics. And let me explain that here while we jump into this battle. The campaign AI, the enemy AI, will attack you if the power bar looks like it looks right here, right? They're very slightly favored. And because of that, the AI is like, we win, right? We're going to win here. They're probably presuming that I'm a Reddit F1, F3 kind of player and I can just be smashed. And because of that, the enemy basically just comes to us with their money, right? They bring their resources, their influence, their loot, and they just throw it on the ground for us because these armies can never win this scenario against us. Now, it doesn't matter the difficulty either, right? If it's on a Bannerlord or easier difficulty, these armies still just slam themselves into you because the AI is doing calculations and it just thinks it can win here. Well, it can't. It can never win here in a situation where they're very slightly favored. If you use tactics, the only way you're really ever going to lose something like this is if you make royal mistakes, or obviously, the enemy has lots and lots of troops, right? If they're barely favored and you have a strong understanding of battlefield tactics, you're just going to win every time. All right, so we've got archers here. And now at this stage, of course, it's a question of how bad we're going to crush this enemy force. We're going to put our cavalry in the trees, right? We're going to try to mention all the little things as a commander I try to do. We're uphill. We've got the ability to do a peekaboo ridge. In fact, I think we'll just demonstrate a bunch of different things in certain battles like this where the opportunities are there. We could just simply shoot this force, and then once they're close, F1, F3. With our ranged heavy army, it's going to be able to do major damage at range. Speaking of major damage, I sometimes forget that this character is ultra weak. Let's call the posse to me and get a little bit of protection here. Help me out there, fellas. Charge these boys. These guys are fucking hot to trot. Your sister told me she was 18, dude. Get off me. All right, so we've got tons of archers, and this ridge is beautiful for a peekaboo ridge reverse slope decline, right? This ridge is going to allow us to kite, and then when the enemy gets close, we can pull our units over and then force them into a reverse slope decline where we're just going to completely pulverize this force. This might be the kind of battle where we lose 5-6 troops. And again, they attacked us. The AI thinks, yeah, we win here, right? And then instead, of course, with tactics, it's just going to be a devastating victory. I mentioned it before in the first episode. One of the huge advantages of that is that we're upgrading units like crazy, but we can continue to fight. We can basically fight this army, and if there's another one right behind it, we can fight that army, and if there's another one right behind that one, we can fight that army. And so what happens is in like a day or two, you're getting the kind of loot that a lot of players that don't use tactics might get over 2 weeks, because they've got to go rest, they've got to go recruit a bunch more troops, they've got to go do tedious stuff, they've got to upgrade troops, right? And they're losing critical troops. They're getting Imperial Sergeant crossbow speared in the face or crushed by enemy infantry, and they're having to re-upgrade those units, sort of start from scratch. Here, we're not really going to have to do any of that, right? So far, we're just pounding the enemy at range. They're starting to charge, and that's exactly what we want, right? We're going to do our Peekaboo Ridge here. Now, what you're basically doing here is pulling all the units to the other side. I like to keep at least one cav division just kind of facing the enemy. In this case, I've got this archer division here. For some reason, they're not shooting. Shoot, you dipshits. What do you guys not have? I don't know if they don't have the range to shoot. They are low level. We do have some low level troops still, of course. But if the enemy's shooting at you and everybody starts to run on your side for a Peekaboo Ridge here, you do get shot to pieces. Or if you're being pursued by a bunch of cavalry, especially if it's Jav cavalry, I would recommend you put up at least a small rear guard, right? A couple lines of cavalry, or maybe even leave one infantry division in a square and try to pull them over so your troops don't all get pulverized, especially your archers you want to protect. Now here's the reverse slope decline. Look at how savage this is, right? They have quite a few archers. They have 31 infantry, 24 archers. At this stage, we badly outnumber the enemy, but they're not going to rout until they get blasted some more. So we're just going to sit here and watch. Now, because they attacked us, this is another major advantage. They have to come over this ridge. They don't have an option. This is the game mechanic. This is why you want the enemy attacking you. We talked about that just recently. I guess it might be a day ago if you're watching these on consecutive days. I'm playing these basically consecutive. I took a little break to get some caffeine, and we're just going to roll right on here with this. Basically do a power session here. Now, I can't quite see our troops. I got to turn this up just a bit. Of course, I want you guys to be able to see them as well. These battles are not designed to be cinematographic masterpieces. They're just designed to illustrate the kind of tactics you can pull off in Bannerlord. Is it archer heavy? Yes. And let me talk about that. Say you want to run infantry, lots of cavalry in your army. That's fine. I have absolutely no problem with you playing how you want. You're allowed to do that. You can do that right now. But if you want to move through the early stages of Bannerlord a little bit faster, get yourself some archers, and then maybe later on you could start recruiting a lot more cavalry or a lot more infantry, right? Early on, infantry is really a liability. They're basically in deep shit. Cavalry's pretty solid, and archers are the boss, right, with tactics. Now look at these poor bastards, right? We're going to open up the center, of course, and what you want to do is you want to have your javelin guys now. They can start firing. Shields are going to break. Some of the archers are trying to come up and shoot. They might get a few kills there, but most of those guys are getting smoked in the face. And most of their troops are doing the slip and slide down the slope here as they get instant melted. I mean, they went over that ridge and just vaporized. At the bottom of the hill, if they're lucky enough to survive that onslaught, they get mauled by our infantry. And they're already routing. And this might have been a perfect battle. Yeah, 0 casualties. So it's a force that thinks they can beat us, and they don't injure a single troop. So we get 10 more upgrades. All of our master archers survive. That's obviously one of the linchpins of our army, is a bunch of high-level archers. We don't have very many Fiend champions, right? In fact, I don't think we have any. We may develop a few. Obviously, if you do this with Fiend champions, in fact, here's our first Fiend champion, it becomes even easier. Now, I do like mixing in Sergeant Crossbow, and we will talk about unit and army composition during this episode. But I just think if you build a range-heavy army early on, and you learn to make kill boxes, you learn to flank, you learn to protect them, you learn to do things like we just did there with the reverse slope decline, you just become death. Look at this guy. He wants some here. This guy was thinking about it, and he's decided he wants his shot. Another guy who's just barely favored here, right? This guy's got a cavalry-heavy army, and he's like, well, we can win. We got 13 Imperial Elite cataphracts. This guy's toast, right? And we all know how this is going to go. Now, we're going to do different tactics here, right? In fact, we're in a different spot of the map. He's got cavalry. So what are we going to do, right? We're going to provide basically buttress defense against that cavalry and try to shoot them off their horses so that we can deal with the rest of the troops. keys to cavalry. What defeating cavalry is, you want to make them slow down, and once they're slowed down, provide damage. If they're moving quickly, they'll kill a lot of troops, right? Especially our archers. Master archers might even get one shot by an Imperial Elite Cataphract. We're just going to prevent them from being able to do that, right? They're going to charge in and get smoked. I'm going to try to kill this horse archer here. You don't want these guys running around the battlefield shooting your guys, and this guy just got assassinated. We got the nice little javelin perk where it knocks troops off their horse on a regular basis. That's going to be pretty handy, right? We're going to throw some noblemen into the dirt and then a spear right between the eyes. We're going to be able to do some naughty things with this main character. He's still weak as fuck, right? But he's got some decent armor now. He's got a few javelins. At some point or other, we'll get him Rites. He's going to get that 250 throwing skill. Although, unless there's a lot of people that want to see me push this campaign further, I think 2 episodes is going to suffice. Although, we probably want to get at least a couple siege defenses because it is one of the more difficult, but incredibly high upside parts of the mercenary stage. If you could do some tactics in siege with your force of 100-ish getting chased. These elite cataphract, of course, have a faster horse than we do here. All right, let me show this point here. So what we're going to do is basically provide a line of shield walls and squares. They got 1 kill, and it looks like we shot 3 or 4 guys off their horse. I think I killed one of our troops. But we'll take that ratio, right? They're full speed cav charge, and they killed 1 dude. We like that, right? That's a really good result for us. Now, even horse archers, I'll put them out front. The Aserai horse archers, if you've got a whole bunch of cavalry charging, you put them out front and tell them to hold fire and hold shield wall. And those guys will play pretty good defense, right? Not a single guy died right there. Still nobody died, so they're charging us with all these elite cataphract, and of course they're just falling on the ground. We cover that all the time on the channel, right? To ad nausea. Heavy cavalry and Bannerlord are not very good, right? That guy got smoked. They're really vulnerable. They don't do the charge damage you would think. They are dangerous at this stage of a campaign if you don't know what you're doing, right? If your troops are spread out, you get torched. We know what we're doing here, right? We're going to flank with the 1st Division, chuck some javelins in the side of the enemy. God, I just got so much damage from 1 arrow. But it doesn't really matter, right? We could definitely F1, F3 at this stage. We're just going to sort of menace the enemy with our cavalry. We'll probably lose a few of those guys. But what I like doing with that is it kind of gets the infantry to pay attention to them. It slows them down just a little bit. And of course, sometimes they're attacking that cavalry, and they have to set their shield down to attack, right? You cannot hold your shield and swing your sword at the same time. I mean, you could in real life, but you cannot in Bannerlord. And these guys are smoked. Their lord eats shit. This guy's holding a shield wall. He gets shot to pieces. So back-to-back battles here where the enemy AI is like, oh, we can win. And they just get completely blasted. 10 minutes into this episode, racking up the influence, racking up the lords, racking up the upgrades, right? And, of course, the equipment is going to be epic. We're going to start selling equipment here. We've had 2 deaths in the 2 battles and like 40 upgrades. Now the character's power leveling here. We've got so much equipment right now, whatever city we go to, we're going to just basically take all their money, right? It's going to be like a legal bank robbery. We're going to go in and be like, just bring all your money. We've got all kinds of bent fucking axes and shields and all kinds of stuff we don't need. And we are going to start equipping our companions at some point, probably soon, right? We're still putting stuff on sort of as it drops from these battles, but we're probably going to buy some stuff as well, right? Sort of fill in what parts are missing here. Like here's a nice little cape. We've got these guys. They're slowly getting outfitted here. Doesn't matter too much, right? I don't care about looks for this campaign. We're definitely doing function over form. If it's going to help her survive, give her a better spear, we'll take it. Now this guy here thinks it's okay to attack this cavalryman. Let's see how bad the auto-resolve does, right? So the auto-resolve in a tiny battle against, what was that, 30 troops, had 7 deaths and 10 injuries. We just fought 200 troops and had 2 deaths and like 5 injuries or 3 or something like that. It shows you really want to be fighting most of these battles on your own. Now, if you're in a hurry, right, you're going to auto-resolve sometimes. If you have good tactics, it doesn't really matter if you lose a few troops. What are we really talking about here? It's mostly a bit of a time to recover, and it doesn't take that much. So I guess we're allied with Sturgia. I guess we could run up north and help the Sturgeons defend some defend some locations. That's kind of an option for us here, but I do want to fight in this neck of the woods here for a little while. We're doing our Botanian campaign at the same time, so we already have some action that's sort of heading up in that direction. But maybe we'll go, you know, participate with the Sturgeons. That's one of the elements of 1.3 that's really interesting. Obviously, as a mercenary, if you kill troops, you get paid, and that counts for everybody, right? So you got some deserters here, looters. It all counts for influence, even though if we go help the Sturgeons, it doesn't help the Aserai, really. But I'm pretty sure we'll get influence for whoever is the enemy of the Sturgeons. And because we're allied with the Sturgeons, whoever's the enemy of them is our enemy too, right? So that'll be an interesting thing for us to explore. Maybe there will be 3 episodes. I'm a fucking Bannerlord addict, in case you guys couldn't tell. And these episodes probably have quite a bit of value to players, right? This is the stage of the game that most players play, right? Not a lot of guys get to the late game. A lot of players don't like the late game because it's sort of a slog. I think there's a great sort of middle late game, and then of course once you have 12 cities and 10 castles, it's all over. But for a lot of players, this is sort of the ecstasy of Bannerlord, and there's a lot of shit happening here, right? Like this is. I just got hit in the shoulder with a javelin. It's sticking out 10 feet behind me. I got this guy chasing me, too. God, what a fucking asshole, man. And I got to be careful here, right? One of the things that obviously is a factor. It's not that big of a factor here, right? Because this is like 20 troops. But unless you're using the RTS mod, shit, almost got dropped there. Once you drop, well, we're going to get an example of it. The casualties are going to mount because the AI F1s, F3s. Worse than that, if you're in a keep siege and you have a plan and you have your units all, you know, positioned like you want and you get dropped, you lose. Your troops are basically going to have an apoplectic fit. They're going to spaz out and run every which way, including right into enemy troops, and get killed. Essential as a mercenary that you keep your guy on his feet as often as possible. That's why you'll see me focusing on skills that are going to help this guy survive, right? That's why it's also worth spending some money on some armor to help your guy survive. We've got this helmet where his beard sticks out. I think we'll probably keep that because he looks awesome too. I don't really care about these. The only thing I'm looking at over on the side is like things like morale. Now we have 100 for morale, so it doesn't really matter. I don't really want to lose troops, so if there's options where it's like lose a bunch of troops and you get morale or whatever the fuck, we're always going to skew towards the sides of keeping troops. Now let's see what we got going on here. This might be our first castle siege, right? We've got two Bylus castle here being sieged by a large force. And we might have a huge battle looming here. Let's see. There's an Aserai army to the south. The music ramps up, my little random soundtrack playing here. And so much for the defense, right? That castle fell fast. Now we'll see if there's a big open field battle. You really do want to participate in these because you can make massive amounts of influence, right? If you can get on the flank in a big battle with a bunch of archers, it's one more reason to have lots of archers in your army, right? You can rack up influence and keep your troops pretty safe. So hopefully we can demonstrate that a few times. Now that luxury scale armor, I'd love to add that, right? It's 200 grand, but obviously we can't go broke buying a piece of armor for this guy. Even if we sold all of our gear, we might not have 200. Let's see what we got here. Let's try to get a bunch of cash as often as we can. If we were a vassal too, we'd be saving this food, but we're not going to do a vassal at all in this campaign. We're strictly going to play a merc. This campaign obviously is not going to be played out to any kind of length. I just wanted an early game template here with 1.3 to show you fellas kind of what an experienced player would do to make money. Now, let me cover that point here while I do some of this administrative stuff. Many different ways to play Bannerlord. I happen to think this is the most enjoyable and the most effective way. And what I mean by that is you can do smithing, you could trade, right? You can do a bunch of other things in Bannerlord. You can be a bandit in the alleyways, you know, mugging people and shit like that. But if you want to quickly become a superstar in your campaign, there's no question this is the best way, right? And by the way, if you guys want to do the alternative ways, there are plenty of different options. In fact, I'll happily recommend some content creators for you guys. We'll do, let's do trade, right? Flesson19 is actually a guy I learned quite a bit about. He does a lot of trade. He goes into cities, whereas I'm looking for equipment to kill the enemy. He's looking for shit that he can buy somewhere and sell somewhere else, right? This guy, look at this army just chasing They're chasing them in circles too. This is just not terrific AI. This army, this Western Empire army, should break off and realize you can't chase them. It's like that friend of yours who's fucking not the most attractive guy, and he's got pencil arms, and he keeps thinking he can hit on the hottest girl in high school. He's just chasing her around, and she's like, "Get away from me." It's just not going to happen here, Gyarios. So Gyarios looks like a stupid brick right here, but it also exemplifies the AI needs more work, right? You're not going to get the girl there, Gyarios. She's going to keep running. So we'll go look for something else to do here. I thought there was going to be a battle, but that's also not a battle we can participate in. When you're a mercenary, you need the battle to be close, right? If they did fight right now and we joined it, we would get obliterated, right? Because we're not going to be able to swing 5, 6, 7, 800 kills. That's just not a thing. We'll talk about that some. Hopefully we do get some opportunities to join some bigger battles, but this is all RNG, right? Your typical campaign, it's highly random. You just never know what to expect. So Flesson19, there's your trade guy, right? Go look him up on YouTube. The guy covers workshops. He covers trades and trade in great details. He plays Bannerlord very differently than me. I'll recommend him to you fellas. Don't have any affiliation. Sometimes guys are like, yeah, you pumping other people's YouTube channels? I don't even know the guy. I just know he's good at what he does, right? It would be disingenuous for me to tell you that I know what I'm doing at trade. You should check my trade videos out. He knows more about it. It's the same thing with Strat Gaming Guide. I've had a lot of people request me to do like perks episodes, covering a bunch of perks. And you know who's better at perks and covers it much better than I do? Strat Gaming Guide, right? So go check him out, right? I'm not at all opposed to sharing the community with guys who know more, right? As a firefighter, I'm very good at like 10 disciplines. And there's like 2 or 3 areas of my profession that I'm not going to get into that I'm not the best at my current department. And you know what I do? I tell people where to go. Like the new guys that come and learn from me, I'm like, yeah. And they're like, I want to learn this. I'm like, yeah, go see this guy. Go see Matt Wright. He knows more about that. Now this guy, I think we can catch him here. Let's see. This is another just sacked and destroyed. Another bad AI. He runs up into the woods and gets captured. So we're just going to continue to blaze through this. But so many different ways to play Bannerlord. Now, again, I've covered it before, but one last time. Well, we'll see if it's the last time. Actually, scratch that. Let's do an easy version of this, right? A lot of guys are probably watching, and some guys are like, well, that's great. If I'm a master tactician, I can play the early game. No, let me show you how to do it easy mode. Obviously this is an easy battle, but this will work against most armies. Position a few troops towards the center and an archer division, and then take 2 archer divisions towards sort of the high point of the battlefield where they're still in line of sight of the enemy force, right? Now we've given them a cav division. I just put a cav division out front. That way they have a little bit of cover. I always like to have cavalry nearby archers, and in this case, it's like 3 cavalry. Right? You don't have to have 30 cavalry here. On this flank, on our left flank, we have 8 guys, right? And so look at that. It's only 1 guy charging in, but that guy was never going to get to our archers because there's all these cavalry sitting in the way, right? Their cavalry, here comes another guy right there. They're attracted to him, right? And so they inevitably attack your cavalry that have armor and shields and shit like that rather than your archers. Meanwhile, your archers shoot them off their horse. Now, I don't have to kill here at all. We're just going to watch, right? These are the archers we sent to the top of the battlefield here. This battle is over. Right now, it's already over with the power bar. Obviously, we're favored here. I don't want you to think that I'm making a mockery or patronizing you. The point is, though, is that this would work against a force we were outnumbered against. Just spreading your archers out like this, if that's all you do, is put cavalry wings on both sides, kind of near the archers, 6, 7, 8 guys on each of them, and then spread your archers out like this, the AI doesn't know what to do. It can't win, right? And so it's basically shot to pieces. You can micromanage, or you could just go use the bathroom, right? You could literally go use the bathroom here, and if the AI charged one of your divisions, those archers are going to get killed. But while they're killing that division, your other archers are killing all their troops, right? It's basically a fail-proof tactic, and not a lot of micromanagement necessary. And of course, I think once you have that foundation of just sort of getting used to your archers being in different divisions, getting used to the spatial understanding where they are in the battlefield, then you can start doing more complex things like flanking, magic screens, all kinds of other cool tactics that you can impress your girlfriend, right? Get laid. Incidentally, I've never gotten laid for my tactics from my wife. She thinks I'm a nerd, so don't get too excited. All right. Let's see here. We're sort of, looking for battles, and sometimes at this stage it does get a little bit tedious because you're basically just wandering around the whole
I wonder if he'll,
map.
I mean, he might defend. If he defends, I think we would try to help. I guess he's going to siege here. Now, sometimes it's better to break in afterwards, but I think we're just going to get in here because if we get in and he sieges, we're going to be able to set up siege. We won't lose any troops. We won't lose the break-in troop effect. In fact, if we get in right now and do these upgrades, and we can recruit over our limit, and that'll give us control over a lot of troops. Now, it's a pretty bad situation, right? The Garrios here has been smashing everybody, and he has actually a really high-end army. A lot of tier 4 and 5 units, right? He's got 70 high-end archers, 70 cataphracts, 70 legionary. But we've got a pretty good crew, and I've wanted to include one of these, right? So let's take a chance here. This is risky, but that'll also make it entertaining. We're going to pick up all of the recruits here, every single one of these guys, because how it works, of course, is that'll give us more troops on the battlefield at the beginning of this siege. I think also we're going to have the ability to build siege weapons. Let's see. Okay, we have no engineering skill, so it's going to be sort of slow, but hopefully it takes them a little while to build some siege, and we'll see what this looks like. The power bar obviously is not favorable. And a bigger thing that you need to understand in these sieges is that as a merc, you only get control over your troops. That means we're going to have to do sort of some synchronized dancing here with a blind, deaf, disabled Tourette's partner here, basically. We should expect our partner to do random, unusual things because they're not going to coordinate or communicate with us at all. They're basically just going to rush militia and archers onto the walls and try to jam up the gate. And what we're effectively going to do is augment what they're doing, what the AI is defending. But more importantly, we're going to try to position our troops to take care of ourselves, right? We're going to position probably 80% of our troops near each other so that at least we have a core fighting group where they can support each other. We might put a couple archer divisions away from our main force. I'm going to upgrade everything here, right? This is the kind of battle where having some upgraded javelins, making sure you've got, the best pieces of armor might be the difference, right? I think we've got some equipment here that I've been kind of neglecting to upgrade. I guess see if we get a better sword. That's probably better. I prefer speed for siege, right? You still want to have some good reach with your siege weapon, but I prefer at least 80 something speed, because if you're swinging at a guy and he's faster than you, you just basically have to hold up your shield like a bitch. And I think this is pretty good here, right? We've got a nice set of armor now. We've got a couple javelins. Our banner even reduces ranged damage because at some point or other we are going to get shot, whether that's on the walls next to a catapult or something. That's another thing you want to check. Because we have a strong army, we want the unit prioritization set to the highest, right? Now, if we win this, we're going to get rich. Now, we already have 130K. We're looking pretty good here. We've got to flesh out some more companions, so it is going to cost us money to put some equipment on, but we might get a lot of equipment if we win this siege. Now, early on here, what I do is I say, line formation, follow me. I want all my troops to basically come to where I am. In case they're on the walls, I don't want them getting smoked. If you don't do it quickly, in the first 30 seconds or so, your archers will go on the walls and they will get smoked. And obviously they won't be of any use to the rest of the siege. Now, I want a division for the gate. Even though we only have like 70 infantry, I still want an infantry division at the gate. And then I guess we can give them one archer division over here on the flank. We'll see what it looks like. I'm probably going to position up on that platform. This one over here on the left is not nearly as advantageous from an angles, and this one over here has almost like a tiered layer of defense. We got to see what kind of siege weapons they have here. We've got a royal traffic jam. This looks like I feel like a firefighter going to the donut store, and there's 500 cops here. They're all having donuts. It's one of the ageless jokes that cops and firefighters exchange, that both of us are always trying to get in line to get donuts. So I want a shield wall line of archers there, and that is so that they're tightly packed. We'll have to correct them if they have shields, but what that does is it allows all of those guys to shoot. They'll be elbow to elbow, but it turns out they can still shoot, even with an elbow right next to somebody. Now, I've got 2 other infantry divisions here that I'm probably going to stick here at the square, or I might augment the gate, kind of depending on what we're looking at here. Now, my character's painfully slow. This is agony for me. Get out of my way. That guy was like a dance partner. And I'm worried about the siege here because look how visible this is, right? If you can see the enemy archers, they can probably see you too, right? So we're going to take cover here, fire a couple catapult rounds. I want to try to destroy at least one of these siege towers, right? So you want to look at the health. This one on the left is already pretty damaged. If we can get a nice shot here, I think it'll go down. Damn it. Most of the shots went over the top. If we have to, we could actually throw this rock. So here, let's go to the other side over there, and we can chuck this rock from the walls and actually hit the tower, and it'll probably go down. Never mind. I think that was it. Okay, so it just went down, so we don't need this rock. We can just dump this. And now, what's nice is we can focus on this right side. The enemy's going to come through the gate in huge hordes, right? So we have to prepare for that. But the troops that are coming up here on the right, in other words, my current left, they're fucked, right? They're going to be staring down the barrel of a lot of skirmishers and archers. It's so much easier when you have only 2 entrances into a castle, right? Or a city in this case. I can throw some of these rocks. We're going to get all kinds of skill points in this battle. Actually, win or lose, we're going to get a massive amount of skill points. If we lose, of course, we're going to lose a lot of money because we'll lose all of our equipment, right? We've accumulated a huge amount of equipment. I bet we have 250,000, maybe a lot more than that, of equipment that we have just piled up. And basically, from here on out, every town we go to, we're just going to say, bring all your money out, right? We'll take it all. Now we're leveling up some throwing here. I got dipshit archers in my way. Get out of my way, boys. They're all they're all trying to shoot down there. In fact, they used a lot of guys used the rocks. I've noticed that the AI uses the rocks a lot more aggressively now. Like 3-4 guys will come over and start throwing rocks. I like that change, right? There's going to be all kinds of changes that we notice about the game that you don't really experience till you're playing, because it would be impossible for Tail Worlds to mention every single thing they did. Now look at this setup. This is great, man. We have a great spot. I have a square over there. We can put archers on the other side. We've got 4 or 5 archer divisions right here. I've got 2 different skirmisher divisions with javelins that we can basically have them hold those javelins until we need them. We can use those guys to block off like this stairway right here, or we can use them to augment the gate, right? Stick those guys at the gate. And 8, 9, 10 guys, you would not, ordinarily want to square that. But it works, right? It's actually fairly effective. Of course, it'll eventually break down, and maybe even kind of quickly. But it's better than the units just standing there, right? Look at these guys. Out of the way. You guys are irritating the shit out of me. Mostly I'm irritated about how slow this character moves. He's moving unbelievably slow. Part of the reason is that we've been on a horse virtually this entire campaign. All right, so we've got very high-end troops here. The enemy basically has gleaming silver armor. So we're going to have to continue to focus on this side. One of the ways we can do that is have skirmishers sit here locked and loaded, right? You basically put those guys at the back there and tell them to hold fire. I've got actually 2 different, essentially skirmisher divisions. I can position this unit right here at the base of the stairs. The enemy's going to break through one or both of these at some point. So we've got these archers here just firing away. We've got a little auxiliary group of archers towards the back. Right now, the AI is doing a really good job of jamming up the gate. It's almost too good of a job. It's going to make the keep siege a little bit slower. That looks pretty good. Those skirmishers are ready. I feel like I can go AFK, and of course I can't. We're going to definitely have to micromanage, but we've got this set up about as well as I can probably conceive of. It helps that we have time, right? Because we destroyed that siege tower, the enemy's not just pouring in huge droves, and the courtyard is just a seething mass of enemy troops swaying back and forth. Instead, we've got the enemy jammed up here pretty good. We can fire in some kneeled javelin shots here. Just gained a level. We're smoking high-end troops, and of course you get more EXP for these, right? The throwing skill, it's going up like every throw. I'm getting an extra point of throwing. More athleticism. Okay. So here's where you open fire, and shit, almost got stuck. And you got that square, this square at the bottom. I want these guys to fire also, but if the enemy starts charging down the hill here, we're going to square on the ladder there. It's making me nervous. All of a sudden, there's a huge surge of elite troops, but look at the log jam they're in. Look at our archers, right? You can see them sort of right behind me here as I zoom in, and the enemy's corpses are just falling to the ground, right? It just looks like, it reminds you a little bit of 9/11, right? This horrific event, and it's getting pretty bad here for the enemy, right? The bodies are starting to pile up and try to smoke this lord. Our skirmishers did work there. And the enemy's trapped, right? They can't really get down. If they do burst down, we'll get that 3rd division onto the stairs. The gate is ironclad. There's a huge amount of militia there. Can actually bring this 1st division up here. This is where it seems like the enemy has their best troops. And you as the commander, you want to adjust for that, right? If you see a spot, guys are cartwheeling off the edges here. If you see a spot where there's a weakness, you got to be Napoleon, right? You've got to assess the battlefield. It's one of the best battlefield traits for generals to understand the flow of the battle, understand essentially situational awareness, and say, I don't need a square down there, right? The enemy's got hundreds of militia jamming him in the gate. Meanwhile, we're being seriously pressed up here. Let's keep our troops concentrated here. So this 1st division is now with us here. I see some javelins still here. There's some good-looking infantry, too, right? We've been able to really upgrade this infantry, and now it's looking elite. Now we have, like, Aserai Vanguard Ferris. If we survive this siege, we're going to officially enter Juggernaut stage, right? We've got 120-something troops. We're going to start challenging everything, right? Armies of 300, bring it. Armies of 500, maybe, right? Because this force, with archers, high-end skirmishers, high-end infantry, is going to be a meat-grinding, pulverizing doom squad, right? Delta Force, Bannerlord style. Now, there's a little lull here. I presume this is reinforcements coming in, right? The AI is bringing in reinforcements as well. The enemy's being stacked up, and their bodies are being festooned on the walls for our enjoyment here. All the limp carcasses, blood pouring down the side of the walls here. It's an incredible visceral game, right? It's just, there's blood splattered everywhere. There's a little violence question that I have to answer for YouTube videos. It's like, are your videos violent? And it's like, sure. And it's like, are they exceedingly violent? And I'm like, I don't know what that means, right? Like, there's, you know, I've seen YouTube videos where cops are shooting people and stuff like that. I'm not sure what that means, right? So you answer as best you can. I don't know. You know, it presumably affects the earnings or the exposure. Every video, I say it's not for kids, right? There's a little button. Basically, they ask you, is it for kids? And I'm like, hell no. Not just no, but hell no. Now, if you're 14 or 16 and you're watching this, it's probably kind of like voting, right? There's some 14-year-olds in the United States that are qualified to vote. And there's some 34-year-olds that are not, right? So it's one of those things. It really is dependent. But, you know, if you're 11 years old and you're watching our videos, you really shouldn't be. I know you don't give a fuck about my opinion, but kids should not be watching shit like this at this age, right? At 11. And you guys are like, quit preaching. Just let me enjoy. That's what I will do here. So I'm actually a little bored, right? I don't have anything to do. Everything is locked up here. I'm wondering why the enemy's coming up so slowly. I do see him running forward. That guy just got smoked. There's all kinds of death over here, of course, because the AI tried to defend the walls. They're bringing archers up, but they're not getting through the gate, right? At this stage, that 2nd division is covering the gate. We've got like 60 to 100 militia there. And this siege is over, right? I'm just telling you right now, the enemy's not getting through the defenses that we have. I could still square the gate. Put all these guys in there. I love it. Our companions are smoking people. In fact, he's getting levels. It's glorious. Now, the enemy is starting to stack up here. I can hear and I can see combat right on here, so let's take a look. There's clearly a big enemy press. And you know what it is? It's archers. And these guys talk about pigs to the slaughter. Most of them don't have shields, right? So it's just fire! And they're just absolute carnage of shields and carcasses and go falling down. And it's ecstasy, right? As a mercenary, this is ecstasy because death equals money, right? So it's like, instead of yelling, for glory, we're like, yeah, for money, right? We're just racking up money. We've probably got a couple hundred kills at least for our army, and hardly any casualties, right? As the carnage is beautiful. And I think they just routed. I think that's it. Maybe we lost 20 troops. Probably not even that, right? And I think that's it. They just ran away. And we didn't just win. Again, we just blasted the enemy. I was actually hoping it would be more suspenseful. I guess we'll take on a little harder siege next time. We had 3 deaths and 420 kills. Tons of renown. And, you know, we're going to be clan tier 4 before too long, right? We just hit 370 influence, so that battle was probably worth 10 grand just in influence. Tons of loot. You know the loot's going to come pouring in. A bunch of nobles, right? We might even get Gyarios, right? Each one of these guys is thousands of gold, thousands. Here he is, right? The Emperor. Let's take his helmet off. We should wear his helmet. Be like, we'll ransom you as long as you give us that helmet. And we're going to get even more. I'm going to, let's see. Sometimes I don't record this, but I think we'll just do this for this episode. This is where you really pile up the money. It's just money coming in from every direction. This is like, it's basically the jackpot, right? We just got a huge amount of gear. Look at all this gear. 9 Palmatians or whatever they're called. This horse is worth 5,000. We get a very expensive helmet we can stick on a companion. So we're decking out our companions for free. They're getting like legendary gear all over the place. And we're still going to be able to, we're going to have to sell heaps of loot, right? Every city we go to from now on, and this campaign is literally not even 3 hours over. We're just going to say, give us all your money, right? We just, every city we go to, even with this reduced loot, when you get a siege defense like that, where you kill most of the enemy, you just get piles of loot, right? Now we're going to make even more money here, right? We're going to donate all these troops. We're going to donate all the prisoners for influence. We're going to sell whatever's left over to the ransom broker. We're going to go to the market and sell. And it's like, this is like, I can't think of an analogy that would be easy to explain, but it's the jackpot, right? This is like winning the lottery. And you, on the way to cash your lottery check, some guy comes up to you and says, I'm terminally ill. Would you take all my money? And you're like, I guess, why not? We'll take even more money, man. We'll give you a nice funeral, dude. Thanks. It's just pouring in. We get our pick of the troops. I didn't really see what they had there, but now our army's even stronger. All of these extra prisoners here, Gyarios and whatnot, another 40 influence. And I think our mercenary contract is like 200 per influence. I can't actually remember. 180 maybe. My memory says 180. Whatever it is, we're getting thousands of influence, or at least thousands of gold from the influence. Yes, we're not getting thousands of influence. And these prisoners, right, this is the way I like to do it. I just go to count. That way it takes me, to the prisoners we have the most of, and it'll take me 30 seconds, but we're gonna dump most of these guys in the ransom broker here, make another, I guess it'll be 20 or 30,000, 10, 15, 20,000, and march on. And it's mega power leveling, right? We had companions get levels in that battle. They decked out in good gear. They got a bunch of EXP. Our character got a couple levels or a level or whatever. Our army got stronger. You guys get the idea. So you can do trading. Trading's a good way to make money early in Bannerlord, but I just think this is better, right? This luxury scale armor, I would love to get it, but it would literally take all our money. Let's be smart here with our money, right? Money is hard to acquire in Bannerlord. That's the whole purpose of these episodes. What I would recommend is just slowly upgrade your gear. Just sort of be smart. It's like don't buy a brand new car, buy a new used car, right? You want to get a car, don't buy a 2025 variety. Buy yourself a nice 2020 or 2019 or something like that. And fiscally, you'll save a huge amount of money by doing that, because as soon as the car leaves the lot as a new car, it basically loses thousands of dollars in depreciation. And of course, you can avoid that by buying yourself a nice, anyways, you get the idea. Save yourself some money, right? So all the money in the whole city here, I don't even care that it was 6,000 over. At this stage, we're just like, money's pouring out of our pockets and we're too lazy to pick it up. Now it's time to look for some more fucking carnage here. We'll sit up on our chair. But I'm also, let's get audacious here, right? Let's start tackling shit that's gnarly. We have 250,000, so even if our army gets captured here, we'll be all right. In other words, we'll be able to very quickly restore our army. We'll go raid some villages. The same process we've used at this stage to build this army. And here we go, right? Even that's actually too small. I hope bring more forces, right? We want to fight like 300 or 500 or something like that. We might even siege a castle by ourselves and just kind of see what it's like, right? See what kind of difficulty. Now, you don't get the most amount of influence for that, right? You get influence based on kills. So sieging a castle doesn't actually do much for you. It's much better to defend. And 222. Let's chase this guy down here. This is sufficient for our means, right? 220 troops. And of course, because his army's larger than us, we can chase him down. Now, we're very slightly favored. You guys know how it's going to go, right? We're going to continue to do tactics. A heap of upgrades here that we'll do quickly before this battle. But this guy's mauled, right? He's going to get mauled. If you want to take a bathroom break, now's the time, right? Come back in 3 minutes, and you'll be looking at that same dipshit with the helmet being told, have mercy on us. You captured us. Now, maybe we'll use slings, right? Maybe the third portion of this, we'll fire some slings in there and see what we can do. It's tied to throwing skill, right? I think so. So we will experiment a little bit here. Certainly we can afford to buy some high-end slings. Ultimately, I think they're kind of gimmicky. And what I mean by that is if you can use javelins, jarides or whatever, it's not really a contest. I don't actually think there's a big advantage to using slings. They're wildly inaccurate. They don't do a huge amount of damage. But also they're blocked by shields, right? Now, I know javelins are blocked by shields too, but once you eventually get that 250 perk, you know, it just blasts right through shields, and javelins makes you just a cheat mode god of war. Now, this is good. The AI is running here. I like this, right? Because we're going to be able to show diverse tactics in this episode. We can enjoy this incredible sky here as we charge up to deal with this force. And this is, you know, it's good for sort of an example perspective. Everybody plays this approach a little differently, right? But I go back to it over and over and over and over again. This is why you want more archers. If an enemy is playing defensive and you have an infantry-heavy army or maybe a cavalry and infantry army, much, much harder to do what we're about to do here. Lots of archers. We're going to pound this enemy at range. We're going to force their infantry to charge. Once their archers are sort of skirmishing, we'll attack them with cavalry. And it's another battle where we might have, 20, 30 casualties at most. Whereas if you had infantry, you would certainly suffer 50, 70, something like that, right? You're going to get shot to pieces. They're playing defensive because they have a good amount of archers. I'm decking guys here left and right. I killed that guy's horse. It's so satisfying to just deck these guys, right? These pompous nobles, and you just put them on the ground. All right, so just countering their cavalry here while our troops move up. I have taken the RTS mod off. I don't know if I talked about it. It's too unstable. I haven't had crashes with this portion of it, but earlier in this campaign, I had a couple crashes, right? It just crashes sometimes during routine battles, and I don't want to film these scenes 3 or 4 times, right? I actually start to get hoarse. I don't have those young guy lungs, right? Strat Gaming Guide I watched once, he did like a 7-hour live feed. No idea how you do that unless you're young, right? I'm an older dude. I'd be hoarse. I'd be grumpy. I'd be fucking cranky. All right, so what are we going to do here, right? We're going to fight at range. Now we're going to do it intentionally or intelligently, right? We're not just going to put our archers out there and infantry behind them like the AI does and get them smoked. We're going to move cavalry up in front of them, infantry up in front of them. Once there's sort of a ranged battle, in other words, once we're exchanging volleys, I'm going to run through and smash some of their archers from the side. We'll bring cavalry over there. We're going to basically menace them while we're having the range exchange. If we just F1, F3 at this stage, we're still going to win. But again, I don't want to have 70 losses where I've got to run to town and rebuild the whole army. So I'm moving cavalry here as we advance our troops. The reason this is beneficial is twofold. First, they're protected. The cavalry in a shield wall will suffer minimal death. Second, the enemy tends to shoot targets that are closer. It's basically, it's decent coding if you think about it, right? If they just ignore targets that are thrashing them and shoot our archers across the valley while infantry are marching up, it's not good, right? Because they're going to get mauled. So it's good AI really, but since we observed that behavior, we can exploit it. And how we're going to exploit it, of course, is put shield walls towards them. Those guys will attract attention, and then the rest of our archers won't be getting shot very much. Now I've got cavalry moving with me. Cavalry at this point is very effective. When you have 20 guys here sort of running through a loose formation, the death spam looks like that, right? It's fizzing green, and quite a few kills are cavalry, right? When you look up in the upper right corner there's a cavalry kill like every 4 or 5 kills, and that's some guy getting trampled or catching a javelin or whatever. And the enemy's fucked, right? They're just being melted here in the center of the valley. Because we have more ranged units, they were forced to charge, even though they started this battle defensively. And, you know, to quote Oppenheimer, right? I have become death, destroyer of worlds. Once you have good archers, once you have good tactics, Bannerlord's child's play. Just carve our way through here. They're little pathetic archers here are swinging their little tiny little maces and stuff like that. I love the animation. They're like desperately trying to pound on us as our cavalry make these sort of side-by-side slamming attacks. They're getting shot. And then they get steamrolled by heavy cavalry. We can't stop them, right? They just get pulverized, slammed in the face, cut down. Our troops laugh. These guys are bleeding to death on the battlefield. No quarter for the craven, just taunting the shit out of them. Well, at least we're not sexually desecrating the bodies like you sickos do with first-person shooters. They're teabagging people. Horrific. Don't do that shit. That shit's terrible. All right, these things, again, I don't care that much. Made my point on those. We're going to just cruise right through this, trying to minimize the negative effects here. Don't really care. Like, that's the one I want to avoid, right? Don't want to decrease our morale a lot, right? We definitely don't want a huge hit to our morale. We're not likely to get troops routing. What's this shit? Ragenvad wants us to join? Ragenvad wants us to join. Well, I think we'll go to war with Ragenvad, right? The Aserai. Oh, wait. Oh, shit. Okay, so that's right. The Aserai and the Sturgeons are allied, so we could theoretically ally, or at least we could, we could go up there and fight with Ragenvad. Maybe we'll do that, right? We'll see. But this is too tasty to not engage, right? There's 359 troops here. Let's give it a shot, right? Fuck it. They're kind of infantry heavy with some good archers. We've been saying we can handle armies like this. Wow, let's try to prove it here. This would be a good sort of rite of passage here for Rage. If Rage can win this battle, right, he's a true Aserai noble. A whole army of Western Empire, right? It's a small army, admittedly, but come get some. Let's see what they do here. Oh yeah. Do you have anything? It says some kind of dribble with an English accent, and we're significantly underdogged, but it's not too bad, right? That little bar there. Basically, me looking at that says we got a great chance to win this battle. And I understand some guys are like, don't prognosticate, don't predict, right? I want some suspense. Well, if you guys want more suspense, hop on the Valandian campaign or something like that. These are tutorial. These are quick, down and dirty. And of course, I want to describe some of the game mechanics, right? When the power bar looks like that, if you have good tactics, you should still be able to win. All right, I've got a Peekaboo Ridge here, right? This is going to be savage. We have multiple different things we could do in this battle. I've got 85 archers. I can actually make 2 infantry divisions here. I'm looking for... I don't have enough captains. Of course, we only have 5 total players. We need some more companions. We picked up this doctor, and we'll talk more about that. We've already assigned him as our surgeon. He's got horrible combat skills, but that's all right, right? He's going to be our medicine guy. He's over there. He's the medic. He's running around... like Counter-Strike medic, right? He's helping our guys out. He's going to help us heal between battles, limit casualties and stuff like that. Let's do 3 archer divisions. We're going to get them down in this valley. 2 different infantry divisions on both flanks, augmenting the cavalry divisions. And now we've just got to make sure that we execute here, right? There's going to be a bunch of troops pouring up to that ridge. I want cavalry and infantry on both wings, right? Because they have a decent amount of cavalry too. We've got a battlefield that looks like, like we're in Valhalla. It looks like heaven. It's unbelievably beautiful. Must have said that 500 times since they changed the lighting. I mean, the clouds and the purples and the pinks out in the distance. It's dazzling. Now, we're holding fire with this crossbow division, right? I don't want them shooting until the enemy's a lot more visible. Your crossbow has a lot less ammo. Talked about that before, but I'll mention it here in case nobody's heard it. I like to separate my crossbow from my archers because your archers almost always have a lot more ammo than the crossbow. Now, here's the caveat, right? If they don't have a shield, if they're like tier 3 or tier 4 crossbow, the Valandian or just the regular Imperial crossbowmen, you cannot separate them. Not under normal circumstances because they don't have a shield. Once they get a shield, though, you can make divisions that are exclusively Imperial Sergeant crossbow, and I highly recommend that. We'll see if I get a chance to mention why here in this battle. I gotta focus here. The enemy infantry's coming in. It's a huge long line, and if we're not careful here, we can definitely get rolled up. Basically, they can be an avalanche right through our formation. So we're gonna pull this first division back. Our flanks can open fire. Our cav line did a decent job repelling their cavalry charge. And now we basically just have to suck the enemy in here. We've got horse archers and an archer division on the enemy's flank. That first division is probably going to get mauled. This 8th division can help though, right? These guys are over here. They can throw some javelins. And the enemy's being pounded at range, right? Arrows are just pounding through here. The enemy's holding up their shield, of course, but they're still going to get hit, right? I can hear Legolas from the 2 towers, right? They're weak underneath the elbows and the neck, right? Hopefully our guys are targeting well here. And the death spam sure looks good, right? They smoked the Lord. And critically, because we have this peak of a ridge, the enemy can't see us with their archers, right? They're moving up and they can't quite shoot yet. So we're killing their whole infantry, basically throttling it without any archer support at all. There's a few guys shooting our cavalry here, but that's by design. I put those guys in a shield wall so that exactly what happened is happening, right? They're shooting our cavalry shields instead of our archers. Our infantry's down there slaughtering the enemy, and they're not being shot. Instead, the enemy's preoccupied. Now, we can go have a sandwich, right? This battle's over. But what would you do here, right? Say the battle was a lot closer than that power bar shows. You do a reverse slope decline, right? We're going to demonstrate this a couple more times in these episodes because this is probably the singular most powerful terrain tactic, right? There are different types of tactics. Some of them have nothing to do with terrains like kill boxes. Terrain tactics, of course, is where you're using the landscape, where you're using maybe a tight spot. The Battle of Thermopylae is a clear battle of terrain, right? They had a narrow gap that the Persians were trying to fit through. They couldn't get a huge force through, and so it negated their number advantage, right? And obviously the Sturgeon or the Spartans also were prepared for that, right? That's precisely what they had gone there for. All right, now we're still being shot. This might actually not be the perfect spot for it. I'm just going to bring units here towards the center. Some of their archers can shoot, and so they might keep shooting. I guess we could take it to an extreme and just have everybody square into a big glob. Maybe we'll demonstrate that in the future battle here. What you can do is just literally tell all your units, follow me, and then go stand at a point and they'll all glob around you like you're a celebrity. That's a really good way to avoid these guys on the edges here being shot. We're being shot on the edges, and so 2 things are happening that are kind of annoying. First, they're going to shoot and or kill some of our troops. Second, they're going to waste your and my time, right? Because this battle's over, and I think I'm just going to charge here pretty soon. If they don't move up, I'm not here to waste your fellas' time. You can see the power bar. Even if we charge, we're going to smash them in this battle. Maybe we lose 30. That said, charging here is going to be, it would ordinarily be a disastrous tactical decision. This is very similar to what they did in World War I, where they, jumped over the barbed wire at the sound of the bugle, and everybody charged. The barbed wire lines with mud everywhere, and the enemy's fingers on the machine gun trigger. Right, this is a fucking disaster. So when we go over this ridge here, it looks like we're just going to have to charge here. I'm moving archers back so they have a little bit of support. we're going to be the proverbial guys over the line, right? We can bring cavalry first, and they're going to get smoked. And then we will bring infantry forward. Can't see shit. The sun is in my eyes. Just got smoked. Got 50 damage still. This guy, I got to get him a little bit better armor still. But we've mentioned it before, right? Archers and Bannerlord were already accurate and deadly. Now they're OP, right? They're really overpowered. Now that they're even more accurate, I mean, I'm cruising around on a horse, and some guy had the ability to sort of dial me in, right? Just completely lead my motion and drill me in the neck with probably a crossbow bolt. It's almost a cheat code that the archers are so accurate. I don't think you could hit a guy consistently on a moving horse, especially hit him right in the neck like that. Like, that's some fucking alpha male, or that's some Delta Force alpha male type shit right there. And the AI does it consistently now. If only they made spear cavalry that accurate, right? They can spear you right in the testicle, and they weakened archers a bit. Sorry there, but then I would be more content with the balancing of it, right? If spear cavalry were a lot more deadly, like if they were charging you with the spear, you knew your testicle was going to get hit, they were deadly accurate, then I would be okay with the balance in Bannerlord. I would say, okay, so cavalry is deadly. You got to be very careful with spear cavalry. But look at that. That guy just whiffed. There's a guy running, and he whiffed, right? So the archers shoot you on a moving horse at 150 miles an hour right in the neck. They shoot it through a thimble. And a cavalryman with a giant spear can't put it in a troop running in the same direction he's running. Those are the kind of obvious things where they need to make some adjustments. And I just realized we didn't just beat that army. That was a good-sized army, flattened, right? Our army is banged up a little bit, but not very much. Let's see. And I just looked down. I'm very prone to rambling like this, fortunately, right? It's you guys are listening, right? So it can't be too terrible. Hopefully this was a very useful episode here. I'm gonna wrap this up. I think we'll do one more, but I'm not sure. That's the kind of thing you guys want to leave in the feedback. Maybe we should fuck around a little bit with slings. We got a couple characters that have slings, right? We could have a sling division. It's really too bad there aren't units that have slings, right? There needs to be Imperial slingers or something like that. Maybe they could give Sturgeons slingers because their archers not so good. But in any case, thanks for watching this two-part series. Maybe it'll be 3 parts, right? We're getting rich, obviously getting rich, and hopefully there's a lot of little nuggets that'll help you fellas. Please hit that like button on the way out. And with all that said, friends, I will see you fellas next time.